and welcome to our complete set review of Born of the Gods. I'm Evan Irwin.
I'm Brad Nelson.
All day, and we are here to talk about every single card in Born of the Gods. You ready for this?
Yes.
Oh, this is just like the thing that people love to watch. This is the thing we hear about all the time. We go places and they're like, man, set review. They just love the set review.
It was very fortunate because we just liked making them.
I was like, hey, we should just go through all the cards. That's crazy, you know?
I mean, we already do it on our own. We might as well film it.
Right, we might as well talk about it so we can be embarrassed later. When we, talk about Burning Tree Emissary being terrible.
And
awkward.
And Omen Speaker being bad too.
Hey.
You got there.
Got there, I told you, I tried to tell you, and then you tried to tell me on things like Blood Scrivener. It doesn't mean we always listen to these things. It's fine. What we will start out with is Acolyte's Reward. This is the first in a cycle of cards that do stuff based on the, on the devotion count that you got. The white one's really sweet.
I'm pretty sure this is the best one. Like, countering a spell for devotion, but like, I love me some Harm's Way. I love me some Shining Shoal. Shining Shoal was like the first card I took to my first major event.
Oh man, Shining Shoal was a bomb.
Yeah, but this card is really good. It's going to be a limited all-star, mostly because it's just 2 mana, and it's an instant speed trick. And those are like important in this format because if you look at Theros and a couple cards from this set, it's like 6 mana removal, and
it's weird. It's like they because of heroic, and heroic's so important, and you got to be able to target creatures and they don't just go away. All the removal is kind of terrible. And I actually saw Sam Black was talking about this yesterday, where he was saying that like Theros removal or standard removal is so good, but when you go to Theros block, it's so bad because the block needs removal to be bad. And this is really good removal essentially.
Oh yeah, I mean it's like a great 2-for-1, like a combat trick. Also, it's like in the format where this set also has a lot of bestow. So it's like when they build their battleship, you can just try to build up your devotion and just like hit them for like 6 and the game's over.
I mean, between, bestow and monstrous, like they're going to get this monstrosity thing going and then they're going to be like, okay, Pelucranos guy who ripped the nice rare, kill you.
Yeah, that's not going to work. Pelucranos is still going to kill you.
It's going to kill all the guys who have all the devotion you're using.
Exactly.
So good. Anyway, fine card, really good and limited, no doubt. A Crowan Phalanx.
Yeah, the wannabe Perforos.
NA.
I mean, they got this like 300 thing going on, like at the edge of the cliff, and they're fighting. That. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And it is a good magic card. Like 3/3 for 3 or for 4 with vigilance is going to be good. The ability is great.
Right.
But for the most part, I just like there's a disconnect where it's just like you're not Perforos. Like, I'm sorry, but you're not. You have his ability, but you're not him.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this set, I think just in general, is we're going to be focusing a lot more on the limited environment. There's not, I feel, in this set, a lot of sort of constructed spikes that you get. Certainly in a big set like Theros, certainly in a big set like Return to Ravnica. But, in the little sets, they don't always sort of need to be super crazy constructed impacting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing about this set, and I feel like the way that they've designed sets in the last like 4 years, the middle set tends to be the one where it's like, we don't really want you to like invalidate your entire deck you just purchased with Theros, so we just want to add some things to it. So I don't see a lot of new strategies coming, maybe like color shifting, like where green-red devotion was a thing, I now think green-blue's devotion is going to be a powerful thing, but a lot of it's for limited, mostly because Theros Limited was great, and I really want to see where it's going to go from here. And this is just a perfect limited card because it's not technically devotion, it's like the double-colored card, and but it has great stats without being such a devotion fueler.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good, fine stats, 4 mana, 3/3. It affects the whole board. Like it's got a good ability and vigilance. This will be a limited, not an all-star. This will be a very good card for you in limited. You'll be happy to run
and
this
the
card.
Flavor I love about it, because it has vigilance, it's your boat. Like this is your battleship. You're going to build onto it, and the art is all about like building this one big thing on its own. So like this is what you're going to want to put all of your creatures on.
Absolutely. So a Crow and Sky Guard. Very similar.
Yeah, I mean, I like cards like this. Like, this is my first heroic card that I really, really like from the set, mostly because flying is such a huge ability, and even if you don't have the heroic cards, you're getting in with your guy. Most of the heroic guys from the last set, if you like just didn't draw your bestow or your tricks, it's just a 1/2 that's just sitting in play, not doing anything.
Does nothing.
At least this guy attacks. Like, he flies over.
This guy is sort of like your mini Wingsteed rider. I guess, more or less. And that card was unreal in Theros Limited. So this card seems really, really good for the sort of the same reasons.
Wingsteed Rider was one of the best commons, if not the best common. I first picked it a lot in the format, and I was happy to. And this one just costs 1 less for 1 less power and toughness, but I think that's fine, especially with the curve of this set has a lot of bestow that costs 3, where that's not something that they really did in Theros. So I feel like the battleship is going to grow right away, and having a big flyer is just a perfect thing to do.
This guy you always run in limited all the time.
Yes.
It's just, he's amazing. He will
Unless
do
you're
good
not
things.
playing white.
Yeah, I mean, sure. You know what I mean? If you're in white, you're going to play in limited. Thanks, Brad. Whoa. Anyway, archetype of cards. This card I thought was really pushed for an uncommon. I thought it was a lot of abilities, really good, really impactful, an uncommon. I was like, I read it and I was like, this is a rare.
Oh, really?
Nope. Well, I mean, just looking at all the
Yeah.
abilities and all the things it does and the way it changes around the way things work, and I'm just like, that has to be a what? I was like,
Yeah, I mean, if you
uncommon.
ever have this in limited and have a God's Willing to protect it, like how does your opponent ever attack into you? Like even if you send like your big guys at them, like you can just have like 3 1/1s and a 2/2, but that's 5 first strike power. Like it's so hard to get through that. And like if your opponent's like, well, I'm just gonna attack and then they're gonna block in a way that first strike's gonna be important, but then I'm gonna Magma Jet their guy. You're thinking, right? Well, he's just God's Willing protect it, and like the game is completely over.
GG's. I mean, like your opponent, they're going to try to get through it, and you're obviously going to smell the trick. And as long as you've got, the answer, this guy's nuts. In limited, he's ridiculous.
Yeah, and the one thing that I'm really happy about with the set is with all these like enchantment creatures and the sparklies on the sides. I know there's a different word, but I just call it sparklies.
Hey, it's sparklies.
Yeah, the art really goes with that. I love this art on this kind of card.
I think all this art is amazing,
Yeah.
and obviously these new frames look great, and I like sort of basically every card in them. The king is here.
What were you saying about this set's not gonna like have?
The king
Yeah.
is here. Oh, I mean, what I'm saying is like there's basically a few constructed notes that it hits, but when it hits them, it's like, just body slam the metagame up on your face to the point where I think this thing could actually hit Legacy. This thing is ridiculous.
Well, I don't know about Legacy, but I'm gonna say that Todd and I played it in Standard, and you have those moments like I remember back when Board Sharker came out, and Jerry and I were playtesting before we did our versus videos. And like I attacked him, he's like, all right, block this way. And I'm like, you're gonna get destroyed. He's like, oh yeah, I can't block that way. And then he's like, I'll attack this way. And I'm like, I'll block. And he's like, oh, I can't attack that way. And we were just blown away by how powerful it was.
Yeah.
And that's what Todd and I did on camera with this card. I like attack with a Spear of Heliod and play, and I'm like, so I have a 4/5 and this 2/2, and like, sure, you can chump block and kill this 2/2. I don't really care about it. I just got it. I'm not emotionally invested into this thing at all. And
we ain't dating. I don't know what this is.
And then it's like, oh, I can block with them, and if you attack, I get this 1/1, and then you just have to kill that, and I eat your guy.
Oh my God.
Like, this card is gonna be so devastating. Like, there's just a good thing. Like, I feel like because they wanted to print this, they had to print Drown in Sorrow, because there just has to be a way for like black decks to catch up, because this guy is just going to be unstoppable. Like, even all the removal doesn't really hit him, so we still have to play. Like, of course, like Detention Fear and Mizium Mortars and Supreme Verdict, but like,
yes, there are answers to a creature. Yes, there is. There are Doom Blades that exist in the world.
But
sure.
in creature on creature matchups, I really am scared of this guy. Like, he is just going to be the trump of all your white decks. You're just going to want to draw as many Bremazes as humanly possible.
He's awesome. He's ridiculous. I don't know. It's one of those like you can just keep on the superlatives because this was obviously the card. They're like, okay, we're pushing the pedal just a little bit further towards the floor. I mean, the reason I sort of said Legacy was that Stax used Hero of Bladehold.
Oh, he's way better than Hero of Bladehold.
Oh, absolutely. Particularly, he's one less mana, obviously, which helps a lot, and begins making more permanents for you to sacrifice to Smokestack and things of that nature. So, in Modern, he's dodging lightning bolts. In Standard, he's just insane. And obviously, again, something's going to kill all the creatures, and that's important in Magic. But when they don't have it,
I don't know about you.
He is the man. He and his kitty cat parade, they're coming.
Yeah, there's a lot of kitty cats in this set. And he does really work with the Johnny well, too. I mean, you don't get multiple tokens, but you get to jump him up in the air.
Of course you do, because Bramaz needs another reason to be insane.
I mean, just build a white weenie deck around this guy, and you're just going to see the sheer power that he has. It's probably the best card in the set, I think.
I bet Craig Wesco peed a little. bet a little pee came out when he was reading
He's
all
just
the
still
stats.
staring at it.
It's just happens. You can't control yourself. Now, Dawn to Dusk, that's a cool little card. Choose one or both.
Yeah, it's a great card. I mean, this is going to be a limited all-star, mostly because it gets back your bestow creatures. They're all enchantments, too.
And it kills theirs, This is a 2-for-1.
And in a format where they just made a lot of 1-for-1s but gave you scry, 2-for-1s are going to be essential. Like, I definitely think this is a first pickable card and something that you would want multiples of because there's so many enchantments. It's like, it's an enchantment-based set. There's going to be enchantments to kill.
Absolutely.
Like, you might have a game where your opponent doesn't have one, but if you show them this card, they might actually have to board out enchantment creatures just because of how devastating it is. I mean, it's a huge 2-for-1, and even if it's not, you can get back one of your big cards. It's like, I think that this is just going to be a first pickable card and something that you want to play, maybe even pushes you into a color, because 2-for-1s in a format all about building big monsters is going to be unbelievably good. I wish it was an instant though, so it was a combat trick too.
Of course you do.
I
wish my 2-for-1s were better than the 2-for-1s they give me. Wizards, make them better 2-for-1s. Like, no.
I mean, that's all I'm asking.
Card is terrific and limited, and that's all you need to know. Eidolon of Countless Battles. You know, if Night Howler can't get there, I have a feeling that Eidolon of Countless Battles can't get there.
Speaking of Night Howler, I tried again. It didn't work. I kept trying.
I love that guy.
I know.
He looks so insane. And that's where I feel like this guy looks very similar in that regard. He's just like, oh, he pumps all the things. He only bestows for 4 and blah, blah, blah.
We're going to get to a card that's going to work really well with in a theme.
Sure.
But I could see it potentially if
and this is for constructed.
you
just to
don't
be
play
clear.
competitively.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, if you're not worried about tournament tables, I think the guy's fantastic. You know, he's got all these cool abilities. He's bestows for cheap. He's going to be terrific and limited. He should be really sweet in Commander when people have all sorts of token creatures and, you know, all the things that fill up the battlefield. I mean, no doubt there are good aspects to this card. It's one of those where, you know, is it good enough for constructed is always sort of one of the first things most tournament players are asking anyway.
I mean,
you know?
I do actually think it could be because, well, my main concern is you can't build your White Weenie decks all about just all the early aggressive guys anymore because of Drowned and Sour, Supreme Verdict, things like that. Like this guy sticks around. If you have a Spear of Heliod, it's going to just be a 3/3. Like it's just a combo with both those cards really well.
He's in sort of much better colors than Night Howler is in terms of like what it needs to do, what it wants to do.
Well, it's also much easier to have permanence than it is to have a graveyard in this format. It's just way easier, especially with like Nykthos and all these double like symbol cards. Like if you build your deck about having a good board position, instead of just a big graveyard, he's just going to snowball much better than a Night Howler.
And certainly what it feels like right now is we're in the world where you build board positions. You don't worry
Yes,
about
that's all
filling
you
graveyards.
do.
You know, that's what Innistrad was more like, you know.
Yes.
Which was Night Howler, I think would have been insane in Innistrad.
Again, I tried to build my graveyard in a versus video and it failed miserably.
But, you know, again, obviously you're going to slam this in limited and high-five your buddies. It's going to be really good there.
I don't know about high-fiving my buddies.
I'm going to high-five my budros.
I just think you like high-fiving about anything. It's like, I dealt damage this game. I didn't win, but I dealt damage.
Shut up, Brad. Elite Skirmisher is next. Padow. This card's sweet and limited. Sweet.
Oh yeah, it's a great limited card, and it does have a really high power. Like, I love cards like this because they trade really well. Like, this card is something that sometimes is going to be really good and sometimes is going to be really bad, but it's never going to be that bad just for the fact that it has 3 power, so they're going to have to trade a card for it.
Right.
But when it's in play, your opponent can't really just leave one blocker back.
Right.
Because
if you've got the heroic spell, or if you got the spell to target him,
Yeah.
the ability is going to tap that guy, and you're able to get all through. And you know he's only got 1 toughness, like anything will kill him. So your opponent doesn't want to set themselves up in order to get wrecked that way.
I have never complained about a Dross Crocodile in my life. I like high power, low toughness creatures in limited because you don't always need a 5/5 or a 4/4 because if they have a 4/1, they trade.
Sure.
And so he's a really good blocker, and his ability allows him to be really good on offense as well. So
I mean, I feel sort of the opposite is that I always like the 5/5s and the 4/4s, and my opponent always has the 4/1s and the 5/1s.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
yeah,
whatever.
because you were like, yeah, I'm gonna be these colors because of my 5/5, and they're like, well, I can just play 5/1 and trade with their 5/5 because I have these awesome cards also.
You and your logic. Oh. Farah's Radiance.
Yeah, all right, I'm finally gonna be like, eh.
They wanted, now this is the first of what I will describe as the Inspire enablers.
Yeah.
That's why these cards exist. All these weird cards, and we're going to go over a bunch of them, that just say, you know, creature has tap to do blah, or tap a creature to do X, Y, Z, you know, like, and then it's going to untap later, or untap a creature to do something, you know, and do something rather. You know, all these things that just turn on the Inspire ability because they want Inspire to do something because Inspire has a problem doing things because it takes a while. You have to usually attack with the creatures, and creatures who attack often die.
Yes, especially because there's a lot of removal in this set based around combat. Like, if you tap your guy, it's going to be dead, but it's sorcery speed, so this helps you at end of turn. Problem with, if they don't make them good enough, I'm not inspired to play them.
I mean, this is one of those, like, do you need an awesome, like, once you have an awesome Inspire creature, let's say you have the Dark Confidant guy, the Dark Seer, like, would you want to run black-white, you know, and would this card be in your deck at that point because of that?
No. Because it just sets you up for a 2-for-1, and they can still kill it even though you don't tap it. Like, there is removal in the set, and I don't want to build a boat that I lose value on, because like that's the whole thing we talked about in Theros, right? It's like they finally made enchant creatures that have value to where you want to play them, like Dragon Mantle and all the bestow creatures. But like this card is just setting you up for a 2-for-1, and it's just gaining you life. So yeah, I can like activate my inspired creature or trigger my inspiring creatures because of this, but I'd rather just attack with them and hope they don't die.
Mad best. Now, you know, when you need to absolutely get rid of a tapped creature forever.
For way more mana than it's ever been used at.
Oh, whatever. It was fine. There was I can't remember. There was a spell that destroyed a tapped creature for the same mana cost that I can't remember the name of.
I don't remember. I know that black always had 3 mana ones.
Sure, and you know, and white's already has the 4 mana and they had to be tapped. You know, and that was just a thing. And it had been that way for a long time. I can't remember, kill me, what the spell name is, but it's white and 3 colors to destroy target tapped creature. This exiles target tapped creature. So every set release, someone on Reddit does the obsolescence chart, you know, or what is now obsolete. And this spell, of course, replaced that one because now it's just strictly better to exile.
Yeah.
You know, which is fine, you know, and allows you to get rid of their, you know, monster that they've been building up and things of that nature. Doesn't let them get it back, you know, with the 2-for-1 we talked about earlier.
But this is very narrow removal. You can play it when you need it in limited, but I wouldn't like rely on it. Just because it kills a creature doesn't mean it's going to be good. We saw that with a lot of cards from last set. Like I can't remember the name. The 6 mana destroy a creature with 4 or greater power. Like we thought it was going to be good, but it wasn't that great. And I feel like this one's going to be there too, just for the fact that you have to wait until they attack and deal you damage and during your turn. So it's a huge tempo loss. Plus, if they bestowed on it, now they have their bestow creature, then they can bestow again, and it just generates tempo for them.
It's ways that this card would be a lot better if it weren't in Theros block. Is sort of the way I would put it. There's so much bestow and the ability for you to not get 2-for-1, as it were, from one single removal spell. And you know, as long as you're not using those enchantments, you know, we talked about affairs, whatever. But you know, again, a good removal spell, but just not as good as it could be because of the way the block is structured.
Oh yeah, they do not want creatures to die easily. You have to work for it.
Yeah, you have to sort of spend like your whole turn or most of your mana for that turn, and it's only sorcery speed, and they have to be tapped, and blah, 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 blah. And all this checklist of things for you to be able to get rid of that guy.
Yeah.
It's pretty high bar. It's still a fine spell.
This
is a way finer spell.
All right. I
Fine?
have something to admit.
Here we go.
When I saw this card, it alone made me a Sphinx's Revelation player.
Whoa.
Did you see from a couple weeks back? I played Sphinx's Revelation in an open, and I top 4'd very easily.
Nice.
Yeah, I just like after I top 8, I was like, I should have been doing this for a really long time.
This spell's pretty good.
Yeah, but when I saw this, because like as a anti-Sphinx's Revelation player, I only lost to it once in a competitive event.
Wow.
Yeah, I pride myself on beating that card.
Very nice.
A little bit too much. But
can't beat them, buddy.
yeah, when I saw this and you put a 7th land in play, like before this card existed, every time your Sphinx's Revelation opponent will put a 7th land in play and say go, you're like, this is their rev turn. I'm going to do whatever I can to get a board position that beats draw 4 cards.
Right.
You know, either slam your planeswalkers or your haste creatures or something. Well, now it's just a trap. Like you don't want to activate your Mutavaults this turn. Like if you can't attack Mutavaults into 7 mana. You can't
Mutavaults.
Stormbreath Dragon, Mistcutter Hydras, even the Planeswalkers. You can't throw a Xenagos down. Like you can play a second main phase Planeswalker, but if you don't have enough pressure on them, like here's just it. Like if you attack your opponent for like 6 damage and they take it, then you're like you still have the complex of like, is it Sphinx's Rev or is it Fate of Retribution?
Oh my God, this card is ridiculously sweet.
It is so good. And that whole scry thing, like I promise you.
Trap.
Promise, yeah, you just Sharpie that out. You don't even need that. You don't need to scry 2. You want it to be instant speed because you always want to bluff Sphinx's Rev and Fate of Retribution. And I think this is going to dominate Standard. I think this card and this card alone is going to make the gods worth playing.
Nice.
Like the new ones, because you just need permanents to exist. So the gods and their weapons, like Hammer of Perforos, is probably going to be playable strictly because you need permanents that don't die to Fate of Retribution, like Assemble the Legion and Underworld Connections. Like these are going to get way more important because the Planeswalkers, they're dying.
Wow.
And blue white should not have this ability. So when I saw this card, I'm like, I have to learn how to Sphinx's Rev. And I've totally conceded that is probably just going to easily be the best deck
all you
because of this
do
card.
Is just Sharpie out Scry 2 and everything after it, and then write in, what are you doing?
Yeah.
If it's your turn, what are you doing? Like, it better be real good. You better know they have a Dissipate or something, or a Counterflux waiting on you. Like, that's the only reason you're going to be casting this at sorcery speed.
So I've always said that to Sphinx's Revelation players that you can't take that kind of deck to an FNM and you know, have that as your validation to play the deck, because one of the hardest things to do in Standard is to know how to play perfectly around Sphinx of Revelation and Supreme Verdict. Do I just commit a bunch of cards and then die to that? Or do I like slow down, but then they have better revelations and then they get out of control? And you have to figure that whole tension out. And Planeswalkers help, but now they just have both up at all times. Like once they hit 7 mana, they will always be able to either kill your guys' instant speed or draw a million cards.
Wow.
It's actually, I can't believe Wizards did this to us.
Oh, whoa, did this to us, man.
Yeah, it's gonna get awkward. It's gonna get really awkward.
Surely there will be decks that prey on the 7 mana to do something decks.
Yeah, we're gonna have to find out how to Rakdos Return and just like go sidestep all the play. And it's just like, I'm just taking all your cards.
I think Rakdos' Return is gonna get real good.
I do too.
Real good, and it's because of stuff like that. Now here's Ghostblade Eidolon, not quite the constructed all-star that Faded Retribution is, but he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't literally kill everything.
He just doesn't, you know, for 6 mana, he doesn't make your guy ridiculous.
I mean, he does, and this is going to be an awesome limited card, mostly because the thing I like about this guy, along with some other that we've seen, like I can never remember the names of these cards, but the 2/2 flyer for 2 colors blue bestow.
Sure.
I like this card the same way because not only does it really, when you draw it late in the game, its bestow is amazing, but it then becomes the card you build a boat around.
Sure.
You know, like you just put all your bestow creatures on it and make it this huge battleship. So I like that it is a decent play on turn 3. I mean, we had cards that were like this without bestow. Like 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, you know, we were talking about how they had their uses and whatever, but now you're like, this card really costs 6. Like, I would never feel good about casting this for 3, generally.
I mean,
when I can wait a couple turns and make a creature.
Yeah, but if you have a 4 mana bestow the next turn, and then you can just start attacking. Like, if you can just get it to like 3 power on turn 4, and you're attacking with a 3 power double striker, they probably can't block it.
There's a good chance. I mean, obviously it depends on what's in your hand, but you know, it's difficult to pass up that value.
What are you afraid of, Spark Jolt?
No, I'm not. I'm afraid of losing value because that's what's most important.
You know what?
Magic.
You know what
all value.
You know
all
what I
the
value?
time. What do you value?
3 Swiss points. That's what I value.
Oh, I see how it is. This microphone, I see how it is. Okay. You value winning, and I value value.
I don't just want to beat you.
I know. Ghostblade Eidolon. Play it limited, you'll love it. Glimpse of the Sun God. Oh God. Oh.
Just blinding by the guy.
Scry. I mean,
Is that Heliod?
Yeah, man.
All right.
I don't know what it is. I guess it's Heliod Mad.
Yeah.
Mad Heliod.
So my favorite thing about this card, and it's, you know those magic cards that make you feel really smart, even though it's obvious why they did it? But when you see it, it's like, oh, that's what I do with it. That's what I got from Glimpse. I'm just sitting at my computer like, I am such a genius.
At the end of their turn,
No, that's not it. He didn't get it.
Okay.
It's, I'm going to attack you, and when my creatures are tapped, I'm going to hit your untapped creatures and my tapped heroic creatures. And I'm going to hit all of them. And yeah, you're just going to hit all the heroic after you attack. So what you do is you say, declare attack as your opponent's like, I don't have anything. And then you're like, attack. Before you block, tap that, and tap my tapped guys that are attacking you. That doesn't do anything, but I'll trigger all my heroic. Yeah. And so I think this card is going to be very good for that reason alone.
Brad, you solved the puzzle.
I know, it was so difficult.
Dude. Awesome card unlimited. Crazy good. God Favored General, and how everyone misread it when it first debuted as God Flavored General.
Flavored General.
My good God flavor.
Luis would have loved it.
Yeah, wouldn't he? It was amazing. So yeah, this is, again, one of those inspired creatures, one of those that you might have to use tricks because when you're attacking with a 1/1 on turn 3, it's probably dying, particularly when one that's going to give you that type of upside.
Yeah, but if you have Bestow, I mean, this is one of those creatures that you get value out of, like the heroic creature. Sure, it's not getting bigger, but if you can at least give it flying or something, like there are a lot of cards in this format that can give it flying for cheap. And we'll get to them later.
Sure.
But if you can find a way to either enchant it to just tap it without going to combat or not, like these cards are going to be huge. Like just getting the value of getting these 1/1s, like 2 1/1s is really big, especially if they don't play a 2-drop. Like I just think of like, if you play a 2-drop and they don't have a 2-drop,
sure,
and you just get to free attack with this, and now, sure, you're not playing anything on turn 3, but now you have 3 1/1s. Like, that's a ton of value.
Oh, absolutely, you know, but the inverse is true. When you draw this on turn 10, and they've got, like, Envy, and you got Envy, and you're just like, this guy, like, he's probably never going to trigger ever. You know, he's just going to be a dude that you hope to spend a card on to make it awesome, like Bestow or give it Evasion or whatever. Now, again, if you can do that, this guy's going to shine, and he's obviously going to shine when you drop him on turn 2 and they have no response. But, you know, he's kind of tempered that way.
Oh yeah, I mean they have to be. Like, it's just a 2-drop. You don't really want a ton of 2-drops in your limited decks, but you do want ones that generate value in unique ways. And so I'm a fan of all of these creatures.
Yeah, I like them a lot. It's weird. You know, I do like the fact that you can both spend all of your mana on turn 3, and then when you untap on turn 4, you'll be able to use his ability and still get all that as well. You know, this guy is good, no doubt about it, but he's tempered by a lot of factors. Even if Brad doesn't like those factors. Great heart.
All right, well, every set.
The pillar fill.
Yeah, hopefully we just don't have, like, if you control 2 temples, do this in the next set. Because I'm so sick of these pillar-filled oxes.
Oh, God, pillar
I don't know why they just keep print them. They're like, we're going to cut Giant Spider, which you love, and we're going to give you this thing that doesn't have flying.
Yep, pillar-filled Flash Ox. I'm just like, whatever.
If you play with this card, it will do nothing.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
It is the by far worst thing in the world.
Oh my God. At least it's an interesting picture.
At least it's an interesting picture. You can tell it's cold outside, or he has very hot breath.
Yeah, or he got some stank going on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Great Heart. That's as much as you've contributed today. Griffin Dreamfinder.
These are, I always love cards like this. Like, for 5 mana, you get some value. You don't like this card?
I like it just fine. I actually, I'm sort of, I missed the one from Scars of Mirrodin, that it was a 5 mana 3/3.
Griffin something.
Griffin something, yeah. You know, it was a 5 mana 3/3. You enter the battlefield, you return an artifact. That guy was bomb diggity.
What did you say about returning artifacts to your hand?
Is that very similar to a post?
It's some kind of
That
post.
trades?
Yes.
Interesting. Anyway, that's what I'm reminded of in that. And that, you know, you have these sort of 5 mana griffins in these respective blocks that return, you know, things back to your hand. Now, I can sort of see why they tempered this one to a 1/4. 1, to be able to block 3 power flyers. 2, the fact that there's bestow and a lot of the enchantments that you're going to get back may actually make the Dreamfinder ridiculous. So at that point, you're going to have a huge flying monster that has a lot of toughness on it.
Plus, high toughness helps you evolve creatures.
We didn't know that. It was weird. You had to live through that, and we're sorry. All right.
I'm not.
Yeah, he's not. All right, anyway, so yeah, Griffin Dreamfinder, really good and limited. You don't want to run too many of them, just I think because, I mean,
it just depends on how many enchantments you have.
Right, I mean, but I mean, like 3 or 4. Would you run 3 or 4 of this card?
Well, no, I don't think
that
you
to
ever
me
run
is
4.
too many. I mean, 1 to 2 seems like, you know, reasonable. 3 to 4
I
is
never
too
have 4 of a card in a limited pool, so I'm not worried about it.
God, Brad, you're not working.
This is only one set draft.
Man.
There's double Theros.
Moving on. Moving on. Hero of Aroas.
Before I saw this card, somebody's like, they printed you, and I'm just like, no.
Whoa.
No, they didn't.
Oh, God. Well, you know, maybe we painted.
Yeah.
The guy does have a really sick beard.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a guy who's sort of in search of ways to make him awesome.
Yeah.
There's just no obvious deck that was waiting for this guy. The hexproof deck that they ran in Modern, I think it was, doesn't have anything that would benefit from this. All of them are double white, the Daybreak Coronet, or single color like Rancor. It's like he's in search of something awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be amazing and limited, for sure, with all the bestow creatures. That they work with that, right? Because they are an aura spell.
Well,
now when you cast them, when you bestow on them. Do we need a bestow judge again?
Probably. I guess it makes bestow cheaper. I'm hoping
because it is an aura spell.
Because it turns into an aura. I think it actually says that it's an aura spell.
We'll just go with that.
Oh man, we're just gonna go with it.
Yeah, but it is a 2/2 for 2, and I do think that because it has heroic and this ability, it's going to be sweet and limited. But in standard, I don't think heroic is exactly what we want to do, especially because like there's a really awesome heroic creature in this set, and we had Boon Satyr before, but they're not white. Like there isn't a heroic creature yet in white that you're just like, that is standard playable.
Exactly.
So
it's just not there. I mean, again, he's sort of a man in search of something, and I'm sure when he finds it, he's going to be awesome. You know, it's like, oh man, now the aura spells are 1 less to cast. I can blah, draw the cards, do the thing, but he's not there right now.
When
he's just like
just
really good and limited.
When he said there's something like he's a man and look for something, I'm like, he kind of looks like he is.
He does look like he's fucking for something.
Yeah.
Is that my deck?
And I think he's going to crush that person.
No, come there. Hold it, bay. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, stop it with these cards, wizards.
Oh, good Lord, it's fine. As we've discussed many times over the years, I feel that 7 life is generally the time walk value that you need in order to take a turn that you weren't expecting to have, essentially.
And I, over the years, have realized that none of these cards ever see play.
They never do. Now, all I was noting was the 7 damage, 7 life part.
Yeah.
The actual playability of this card is...
It might, just for the fact that if you like, you can like triple block their big guy and prevent all the damage that it deals, but it's probably just better to kill it in the first place.
Right, but it's also just one creature that you can prevent the damage from, and not all the creatures that are blocking the huge monster. And this card is terrible. Loyal Pegasus. I want to like this card more than I do. It feels like it's just, it feels like it's crippled in some ways.
They keep making this card better. Like before it had to be like you had to have a soldier or something. And this one does seem like it could potentially see play, especially with Mutavaults. Like Mutavaults is the reason, but like here's a good lesson. If you think that this card is standard playable, this is how I'm going to exploit you. You're going to play it on turn 1. Then on turn 2, you're not going to attack with it. You're going to play another guy. Then on turn 3, I'm going to kill the guy you played on turn 2, and you're still not going to attack on it and play a guy on turn 3. Then the next turn, I'm going to kill that guy. And all of a sudden, you played your turn 1 guy and never did anything with it.
Oh, it's so bad. Like, you can imagine God draws and Magical Christmas Lands of Sacred Foundry into Loyal Pegasus into turn 2 Ash Zealot, and then they go, kill your Ash Zealot. And you're like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. Often.
It is, and when it's good, it's not great. It is a 2/1 flyer, and that's great and all, but the only way that I see this card seeing any standard play is potentially sideboard to get in the air, and with Mutavaults, but I think that there's actually just a better version, and I think it's Concord Pegasus. Is that the one that gives all your humans flying?
Yep.
I think the card is just strictly better sideboard card than this.
Oh, well, I think it's when it attacks, it gives all your humans flying.
Yeah.
But regardless, I'm just going to call it right now. One day, me and you, we're going to be talking about a card like this that does not have that second line of text.
Oh, guaranteed.
It's just going to happen. One day, it's going to be 1 white, 2/1 flyer. That's it. Like, we passed up Savannah lines. Took a while for Elite Vanguard to finally come in there or whatever. And I think one day we're just going to pass up a Loyal Pegasus type card to just a 1 white, 2/1 flyer. It's not going to break Magic. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's going to be something that changes the game in that it speeds up decks in ways that this can't right now because it has such a bad drawback.
Yeah.
I'll play it. Mortal's Ardor. Man, they're reaching for these titles. They're looking up the thesaurus, man. They're digging deep.
They want to sound smart. They want to know. You have to get part of the world, and part of this world, I think, is not understanding it.
Right. Part of this world is, how do you say that again?
Yeah.
You know, like that's how you do this. I mean, obviously, this is a heroic enabler. This is a cute little combat trick. It's your standard, your white instant spell does a thing to a guy to make their guy die.
But Lifelink does help with the races, and I think a lot of the games are going to come down to like, one player has a bestow creature that has flying, but the other one has a ground pounder that's bigger, so the one that has flying has to race.
Right.
And just somebody gaining some life here or there will be the difference of a game, especially when it's just an heroic enabler that also gives you the value of the life. So I'm a huge fan of life gain tricks. And if they give a bonus, like, +1/+1 and lifelink is perfect for 1 mana for a trick in my book, because sometimes you're just going to use it to protect something from like a Magma Spray, a Magma Jet. And others, you're just going to gain a ton of life out of 1 spell. So I think that this card is a good combat trick, mostly for draft, not for sealed. Sealed is more slower games. Draft is a little bit more aggressive.
Right. You'll be able to sort of craft your game plan around making Mortal's Ardor really give you the tempo in draft. Sealed, I think, a lot of there's just battleship. Maybe this will buy you a turn. Maybe. You never know. But ultimately, it's a terrific limited card.
Oh, for sure.
Super sweet.
And a big green Godzilla.
Now we have our Nyxborns. We have 5 of these. This is the Shield Mate.
This is BBD's favorite card in the set.
Why?
Because it's very close to a Squire.
Because it's Squire plus Squire plus Squire.
Yeah. And so I like this card. Obviously, it is not a good 1/2.
Well,
you don't just play it on turn 1.
Don't play it as a Squire.
But for 3 mana to give a creature +1/+2 and enable heroic, especially because this is so cheap. Like, I mean, think about it. We were paying 5 mana to get 2/2 Vigilance.
Right.
This is 3 mana to help a heroic creature right away. You get the ball rolling immediately.
Sure.
And you don't have to spend your instants and your tricks to do that. So I love that it's a very cheap heroic enabler, and we're going to see a lot of that. Like, this card is going to be very important to get in pack 1 when you go to pack 2 and 3 of Theros, trying to get all your heroic creatures. You want to just start that ball rolling immediately.
The guy that we saw, the Akroan Sky something, the 1/1 heroic guy, like that on turn 2 into this turn 3, that's a 3/4 flyer.
On turn 3 attacking, yeah.
That is serious business. You know, that is all sorts of powerful. So the cheap bestow is not to be underestimated. You know, even if it's just a squire or just plus squire, doesn't matter, will do great things for you.
Oh, for sure.
Great limited card. Oreskos Stun Guide. So this is the card I kind of pointed out in the show where I was talking about Inspire being kind of a trap in that and this one's, you know, not really a super huge upside, but you know, any Inspire upside is very difficult to attain because, you know, the time it takes for you to play the card, come around, attack with the card, come around, untap with the card, get the ability. Like, that was a lot of this happening before you were able to get any value out of this grizzly bear.
I will agree, but I don't know if you've watched me over my years. I love me a grizzly bear. I traveled with many prophets in Theros draft. Many prophets.
Many.
And this card just is significantly better. It has an ability. I mean, Traveling Prophets did have a lot of text, but it was all flavor text, and I never read it.
You guys traveled well.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, obviously Grizzly Bear with upside is great. And, you know, what I was mainly focused on is that the inspired mechanic itself is really difficult for me to get excited about because it requires such an incredible investment of time or an incredible investment of some card that's really weird, either like a Springleaf Drum or one of those weird enchantments, you know, that does things in order for you to try to get like the most value out of this card. And you're like, okay, so I jumped all these hoops and I got like 2 life.
Yeah, but the format it's aggressive, but it's not fast. Both players are building board positions, but the games do take quite a few turns. Like, it's not Zendikar block. It's not like the games are over on turn 6. So if you put a lot of bestow creatures on this card, the 2 life is going to be relevant. It's 2 life every turn, or they have to deal with the creature. So, like, I don't think Inspired is like the end all be all. It's mostly because you are just so used to, you don't play enough Magic. I just figured out. You just want your ability and you want it now. You're just like, yeah, I want a Massacre Worm or Elish Norn or, you know, like you just want to play.
I want all the values.
Scars Block Limited. That's what you want.
Oh, now it's Scars Block Limited.
Sunblast Angel.
That was really cool. I actually had the Sunblast Angel and Cough in my seal post. I crushed. It was great. But anyway, Oreskos, he's a fine man as a grizzly bear. I just don't think of his inspired ability as really existing. In my opinion, like A, that 2 life is probably not super important, and B, you're not playing him because he has an inspired ability.
But you just want all the value, and this guy has value.
He does. I'm just explaining you don't play him for that value because he can't really give it to you most of the time.
That's true. He's selfish like that.
Ornithark. What? Ornithark. Am I wrong? Is that not say Ornithark?
It is.
It is Ornithark. That lets us talk about the tribute mechanic. Now, I talked all about the tribute mechanic. You tell me how you feel about this mechanic.
All right. I think it is an amazing limited ability. I think this card is, you're going to have tough decisions because on one hand, you're going to have to deal with 5 blocking flying no matter what. Like if you get the 2/1/1s. But if you have a removal spell, you can like either just kill the 5/5, or if it's a smaller removal spell and it's more like just like kill one guy, it might be more beneficial to give him the 2 flyers. But like this one's actually one of the most difficult ones for me to evaluate, strictly because you get 5 power no matter what.
Right. I mean, basically, how do you feel about sort of the tribute mechanic as a mechanic? And then we'll talk about this guy.
Oh, it's wonderful because Magic players like browbeat effects, but they're always bad. But these are finally ones that don't look as bad as they actually are. But like, so my whole big thing is this is my problem. There's 2 that I think are standard playable. The one
Fanatic of Xenagos.
Yes, and the Dragon.
And
the
Mythic Phoenix.
Yeah. So both of those are playable, and that's because they both give haste. Now let's think of this scenario. You're playing Fanatic of Xenagos, and I'm playing Blue-Eye Control, and I have 2 mana up, and I say go, and you're like, play a 3rd land Fanatic, and I'm like, all right, no tribute, and they're like, attack you, and I'm like, charm it, and they're like, oh, and then I play a land, and then you're like, Fanatic of Xenagos, I'm like, tribute, detention sphere. You know, like I get these options, and because they have haste, it allows Azurius Charm to be, oh yeah, I got Blue-Eyed on the brain.
You do have Blue-Eyed on the brain.
It allows me to let your guy have haste, so then I don't have to hold the Azurius Charm for an extra whole turn.
Right.
And I can just get the value out of it right away.
Nice.
But that you're gonna see that, like maybe in like monster versus monster matchups, it's gonna be awesome. But for the most part, giving your opponent an option is never good, ever. Unless the option is just to concede or continue playing after you've already won. That's the only option you want to give them.
Unless you want to suck or suck.
Yeah.
Would you like to suck? You can suck. Yeah, the tribute mechanic, and this guy is nice. I think the fact that this is our first tribute card, you actually get to showcase a really good tribute card. Like, this is really good. On the other half, I'm like, only Tom Lapelli and Ken Nagel could make an entire set mechanic about griefing people.
Yes.
About letting them make poor decisions and punishing them for it.
Yeah, I do like that there's this.
I love you guys. Tom and Ken are absolutely amazing, but like, this is just hilarious to me in that you built the whole set around trolling people.
I mean, I do like that one of the things that I do believe with Magic lately is they're making the cards a little bit easier to play.
Sure.
And that's just a good thing because there's so many people that are coming in from all these awesome different mediums and they're like, I love Magic too.
Right.
But I really don't want to play against a new player at FNM and be like, mystical teachings, I'll go get my Teferi. You. No, now you can't do anything.
Right.
I don't want to do that. I don't mind actually just dying to dragons every once in a while because it makes Magic better.
Right.
And you get to see that. And so, but giving decisions makes the games better. So I do like that. And on one side, it's much easier to play Magic and just be like, oh, I have 5 mana and I have a bestow creature for 5. But I like to make these decisions. I think they're going to be fun. I think that they're going to be more difficult and limited than you're giving yourself credit for,
Sure.
or you're giving them credit for. You're just going to have to tank on these sometimes. And this one
in particular.
Yeah, because
I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I really do.
And limited, this card I think is awesome, and you should play it every single time you have it, and you will love to play it. Plea for guidance.
All right.
What's better than one idyllic tutor, 2 idyllic tutors for twice the cost?
Yeah, this is my one rant card in the set. That's a lie. There's so many rants.
Yeah, there are.
But like, I don't understand. Okay, maybe I just don't understand Commander. But like 6 mana for 2 I don't understand how this is a rare or 6 mana. I just don't get it. I understand that going and getting 2 bestow creatures could be really powerful and limited, but for 6 mana, it's like, I don't see why it's not 4 or 5 mana. Like, I just don't. Like, it's just 2 cards. Like, it's just 2 magic cards.
It's just like double divination for like 2 specific cards in your deck that could totally win you the game.
But other cards win games too. Just 6 mana, it's just a lot.
This goes and finds them. That's the thing.
It is a tutor. I agree.
It's a double tutor.
But tutors are so expensive in this set.
They are. I mean, they make you pay for them, and they don't want, what tutors do, even to constructed formats, is that they remove variance. And so the more tutors you have, the less variance you have, and that's where spikes like it, but, the fun goes away. And part of it is that I can imagine they know that Commander players are going to love this. It doesn't matter if it's 6 mana. It doesn't matter if it was 5 mana. They would love it just the same at either cost. They don't want to make it too low to make limited ridiculous when you have this guy to be able to get those 2 bestow creatures on turn 5 or even earlier if you have Mana Accelerant. So all in all, it's like Earth and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's mostly harmless.
So it's
mostly harmless.
It's not the 42nd card in the set.
Dang it. See, now that would have been sweet. That would have all come full circle. But yeah, I mean, in limited, I think you play it because you're able to go get your bestow guys. Like, it is a tutor. It is able to go get your things, whether it's, an enchantment that you need that does something else cool, but ideally you're going to go get bestow guys.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, card is fine. Revoke Existence. Now, this is an awesome reprint. Awesome reprint. Works perfectly in the block.
There's only one weird complaint I have. I think this is an amazing card. It kills gods. It kills all the enchantment creatures. But I don't get why green gets the same exact card, but instant. So it just like invalidates this card for constructed playable, because it would be constructed playable, but the green one is just so much better because it's instant. And you're going to see that in different. You're going to see.
But as a man who plays blue-white, right? Like.
Yeah, I got Detention Sphere. That's all right.
Yeah, I mean, but Detention Sphere is not always going to be there.
Yeah, well, everything's on top of my deck when I need it to be. I'm lucky.
I can't wait for the rotation of Ravnica Plus. Your blue-white deck just goes.
I just switched over to it, and you're already dismantling it on me. That is how Magic works.
No fun for Brad.
No
funsies. Card is fine. I mean, obviously limited. You're going to love this thing to death.
But when you play white and when you play green, you're going to realize how much more important that instant speed removal is. Sure, that one shuffles it into their library so they can just Griever you and top deck it. I guess that's the downside.
That's the downside. But again, they're both still terrific removal spells in their own right.
Yep.
You'll still run them. They'll still be good for you. Yada yada yada. Silent Sentinel. He's quiet.
I don't think he's that quiet. I think if you play him, things are going to happen. He's
Silent nothing.
Yeah, this card is great just because when it starts connecting, it's a snowball. It's like attack you, get a bestow creature back, play it, block, attack you, get it back, block. Like, there's so many things that this card does by just having an ability to generate card advantage in limited.
Right, and the fact that it triggers on attack and not dealing damage to your opponent, you better thank your lucky WotC developer for that, because a lot of times these types of abilities are when you deal damage to an opponent. So your opponent just creates 1/1 flyers with that guy or whatever it is, just to chump him. But this gives you the ability as soon as you turn him sideways.
Yeah, very good Magic card.
Very good. You'll love it in limited, as most of these. Now, Spirit of the Labyrinth. Man, we getting all the sweet constructed cards in white.
Yeah, well,
man.
I think there's a lot of constructed playable cards in the set. We just have to find them.
We're looking for them. It's okay. In 3 months, we'll be embarrassed by them.
Oh, I was just going to say, and as you know, we never find them on these set reviews.
We just can't. Sometimes we can't even figure out the mechanics.
People often go back and, poke fun at us for like all the cards that we thought were terrible but are actually good. I really want to know what cards we thought were insane but just never saw any play.
Yeah,
because that happens.
That would be a greatest hits reel.
Yeah.
But everybody just goes back and watches the Delver review with me and Jerry, and Jerry's like, I guess in limited maybe if you run a bunch of spells.
And he played it forever.
Oh yeah. He bought me lunch over Deathrite Shaman.
Oh yeah, I mean I argued with him over Deathrite Shaman all the time too. Like there was a hidden above the curve where it was actually our pilot and I was pretty bad. So like
you're glad it didn't see air.
Yeah, but we did have a red zone of Deathrite, and I'm like, this card will be not only modern but legacy staple. And Jared's like, no, and I'm like, no, it just will.
Jared gave me 3 months. He said 3 months it won't be in a legacy top 8. I was like,
yeah, thank you.
Lunch.
Was it next
please?
week?
Yes, it was literally the Monday after. Yeah. I was like, Jared, when you go buy me lunch, bro?
Well, anyway. Spirit of the Labyrinth
is
a great card. It's gonna be most powerful in Legacy. It's just you have to find out where. Like you think Death and Taxes, right?
Oh yeah.
But you need your Revokers, you need your Stoneforge Mystics, you need all those creatures. Like, and so maybe you can cut your 3-drops, but your 3-drops have to fly over True Night Nemesis because I don't know why Wizards made that card.
3-mana Progenitus. Thanks.
Yeah, and so that's the Death and Taxes' worst enemy. So they need their Sayer Avengers so they can fly over it.
Right.
So this card is going to see play. I don't think it's going to be 4. Maybe it's more of a sideboard card, but it can't be a sideboard card.
Well, look, we had the moment on SCG Live where I think it was Lauren Nolan.
Notion Thief.
Yeah, Notion Thief against the Brainstorm. It was brilliant. Everyone loved it. It was amazing. Yeah. I can't wait for the moment. There's going to be that
There's
first time.
There's going to be a lot of them.
The first time they do it, though, it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
The Rug Delver just goes, Brainstorm, and the guy goes, turn Aether Vial sideways, put in Spirit of the Labyrinth. The Rug Delver guy goes,
yep.
Those are the moments I live for. Those are the moments I want to exist in this world.
Oh yeah, and then this card will do that. It's very good. Its body isn't great for that format just because it only attacks and blocks compared to all the other creatures have such big abilities.
Right.
But stopping people from playing draw spells, because you know what? When I'm playing like Deathblade or Blue White Red Delver, do you know what my draw spells find me?
Your
Removal.
lands.
No, removal.
Removal.
So if I don't have my removal, I can't kill this guy. So it's just like such a catch. So maybe decks are gonna have to like, if this becomes popular, there are a lot of answers. So like Dread of Night can just like hose White Weenie or Death and Taxes. But I do think it's going to see play, and it's going to just get into that like whole like the ebb and flow of decks.
Right.
And we're going to see it pop up every once in a while and just blow people out of the water.
Right. Yeah, this is one of those, I don't think it's going to be a legacy staple. I think it's kind of going to go in, it's going to go out. People are going to play around it. They're going to forget about it. It's going to come back. Yeah. It's very similar to what I feel sort of Dredge exists in legacy format where, it's much like Dre. Everyone forgets about him. And then he comes back and then he's awesome. Yeah, that's how it is. I like to bring that up every time. Anyway, Spirit of the Labyrinth. Now, funnily enough, not that great in limited. He's a 2-mana 3/1. Like he's going to trade up.
Yeah.
And that's good because he'll trade up. And that's kind of all.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like draw effects in this format.
Right.
So it's not going to be good in limited. It might see some standard play because it is an upgrade on some creatures, but not really because like you want your Sky Knight or whatever Skyjacks to like gain flying and stuff like that. So I don't think it's actually going to see a lot of standard play. But
I'm just curious. All right, so as the blue-white player, does this card scare you in standard?
Not really, because yes, sometimes if you play it the turn I want to rev, I can just respond by it, and then I'm just going to try to kill it in other ways. Also, this doesn't scare me as a blue-white player because mono black has Drown in Sorrow, so White Weenie is going to have a tough time dealing with that. It's like they printed a card that makes a different deck better because of the fear of it. It's like when I was not Baloth got printed, people are like, I guess we can't play Blightning. You didn't even have to play Absent Baloth. No one played Blightning. And that's what I think Drown in Sorrow is. Is like Drown in Sorrow exists, and now white weenie creatures are just like, yeah, we don't exist anymore.
All right, we can't do it because that exists. Anyway, is what it is. Now, Sunbond, that's a card. You gain life. You put counters on it. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna do the Evan spiel.
Here we go.
Sometimes Wizards makes bad cards, so we have good cards. And this is a pretty bad card. And now you can do some awesome stuff in Commander.
Okay.
You know, you can like put it on something and gain a bunch of life, and that's cool and all. But this is not a limited card. There's not a lot of life gain effects. It's not a standard card because, come on.
It's not for standard. It's
No.
not. It's for kitchen tables all over the world,
Yeah,
and that's
problems over
appreciated.
there,
I'm
buddy?
having all sorts of mic issues today, but yeah, it's one of those where it's bad in every format, but the one that they made it for.
Yep.
You know, Ken Nagel loves Commander in ways that is unnatural, and that's okay because someone has to love that format. I love, Cube and things of that nature. But again, this to me, it was like this was a Commander card, and every other way that you look at it, it's like bad. Commander's awesome. Bad. Like every other angle that you shoot at this is bad except Commander.
Yep.
There you
Except
go.
the art.
The art's cool. That's an art.
I do like it.
That is one
So,
angry kitty.
back in M14, or M13 actually, this is the M13 set review, we talked about the kitty cat parade.
Yeah, we did.
They finally made it a card.
Like, okay, he's coming, and you target him, like skitty cat parade. You don't have a Brahmaz, you kind of got his weird little uncommon brother.
Yes, but it does generate devotion for double white, and I think that's one of the big things why it costs double white. This does look like a card that could be colorless white,
Sure.
But the extra mana symbol is for, I think, to maybe be a standard card, just for the devotion, just so you have multiple 2-drops that cost double white.
Interesting.
I mean, it's very important. I mean, one of the, Tidebinder Mage does have some, applications, but it was mostly just in the deck because it costs double blue.
Right.
And white only had one, so like now it has 2 double white 2-drops. That is important, and then you can Boris Record, and then you can, do your crazy Nycto stuff, and you can be BBD and play Angel of whatever. I do think that ever since Jerry left, I'm more becoming like Jerry, and BBD's more becoming like me, because it's like last weekend, in Baltimore, I was like, yeah, I'm playing blue white because it's the best deck op, and he's like, I'm gonna play my Heliod deck. It's really cool.
It's so cool, and I have the funnestly fun times with it.
Yeah, and
It's brilliant.
he's like, I actually won on camera, and I'm like, God, this is just me from like a year ago. Was I really like that?
Oh yes, oh yes. And you would come to me almost every other week with some crazy deck. Evan, look at this, I broke it. All right. Anyway, so Vanguard is a fantastic Magic card in terms of limited. You want to run it basically every time you're in the white, and standard we'll see.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at this point because devotion is so important. I also like the fact that devotion is so important that actually becomes a talking point. Like whether or not it's a white Nicholas or a 2 white, I know that was probably a big deal in R&D, and I love those little details. That they care enough that 1 mana symbol actually impacts the format.
Yeah, for sure. And real quick about devotion, this is off topic, but I just want to tell it.
Here we go.
Because I've never told it on camera yet.
Okay.
So I built a black splash blue mono black devotion deck, and people are like, "What do you splash blue for?" I'm like, "Islands." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm splashing for islands, and they're like, "I don't get it." And it's like, "Well, with Night Veil Spectre, I want to cast their spells."
Oh my God.
It was true. I played like 2 blue spells, and then I just added some islands to the deck. I already had temples. Might as well play Water Graves and a couple islands.
Might as well.
It worked, and it was awesome. It was just like attack you, and they're like, Biden of Thos or Jace, and I'm like, ooh, I can play that on my own on turn 4.
Okay.
It was off topic, sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, Afara, God of the Polis. I think this card is great.
Well, we have our first god, our multicolor gods, and Evan thinks it's great.
I think it's great.
And I'm slow rolling because I don't know where to take it from
Okay, here we go. All right, so all I'm saying is that now I think Xenagos, God of Rebels, is like the smack yourself upside the head. It's really good. This card to me says it's got so much potential. It only needs 1 good deck builder to really make this card sing.
Yeah. So my issue with this is the spiky side of me from Standard coming out.
Here we go.
Is I do see that Standard is a snowball effect, but the problem is even if you just generate a card every turn extra from this, the other snowballs are so much more powerful. Like Gray Merchant, you can draw your cards. I'm just going to Gray Merchant and kill you. Sphinx's Revelation does not care if you draw a couple cards. Like as long as this card is not active and attacking me, I don't really care if you get a card here, a card there, because my goal is to draw like 12 cards in the course of 2 turns, and then just win the game. So like, I do like this card, and I like that it only needs 5 devotion. Other than that, and cards like Detention Sphere really go well with this because now you only need 3 devotion, so you need like 1 guy.
Reckoner into Afara into Detention Sphere 9.
Yeah, and that's really powerful.
That is a real thing, and you drew a card.
I don't know how real it is because you need Island still, and Boros Reckoner is, you know. I don't want to play 4 Steam Vents.
You got the Blue White Temple now.
You do have Blue White Temple.
That's pretty sweet.
Oh yeah, that card's
going to be everywhere.
But I do like the gods. I have to see them again because I was kind of scoring from the last set. I was like, these are all insane. And you know, Perforos was pretty good, and Thassa was broken. Obviously, the 3 mana.
Thassa was ridiculous.
But the other ones were kind of situational at best, and that's my issue with these because you need more devotion, even though it's only 1. Like it's only 1 more devotion to get these turned on.
Sometimes that's pretty far. You know, like again, whenever anyone says it's just 1 more blah, you go, well, cancel and counterspell. Like you can't get away from the fact that 1 mana or 1 thing is very huge. And, and for this, it really is 1 mana. It's 1 mana symbol. But regardless, you still had to get it on the battlefield, and you still had to have it be there to help her turn on, as it were. But after seeing the other gods sort of happen, and you know, I got a good feeling on Afara.
Yeah,
I got a real good feeling.
A pie feeling?
Ooh. I don't know, man. I don't know about them pie bets. We still got to wrap up the pie bets for Theros.
No, we got to wait until Theros is over and do all of them.
Okay. Wait, do all of the pie bets for all the sets?
Yeah, we have to clean ourselves up and then do them.
You and this cleaning thing, and then you're like, all right, so everyone gets
more punishment.
Less pie, less pie. I don't know. Nope.
Sorry, guys.
Nope. All right, so let's just go real fast. Probably, maybe a standard playable card.
Probably, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
No.
And limited cards, probably terrific.
I would say the one thing that I will say about this card is I'm going to say that I don't think so, but I think it's one of those sleepers that like I could see people picking up on. Like, you know, that one guy, like this is the pack rat, right? This is the guy that when this card breaks out, the one guy is going to show his bed with like 800 of them.
You see,
he's like, I got it.
I was right. You see, you know, like there was that guy.
Yeah.
There's multiple guys.
And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be that card. I think it's either going to be like something that everyone's like over the head obvious it's going to be powerful, or it's just not going to see any play. But this is I would say the second best god.
Interesting. I agree. All right, so her enlightenment, if you will.
Yeah.
Afara's enlightenment, 3 mana, it gets counters, it has flying. Whenever another creature enters, you just bring it back, and heroic, and then blah, blah, blah. You play a dude, it comes back, and blah, blah. It's great. Should be awesome and limited.
The only thing I don't like about this card is bestow creatures don't enter the battlefield. So when a bestow creature, like when a guy dies and you get the bestow to come back, I would want it to bounce it.
Oh,
it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't enter the battlefield?
No, they don't. Yeah, I learned that when I couldn't evolve off of a bestowed Boonsater, and I felt so robbed.
Oh man.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean
Sadness.
it's powerful, but it's slow and it's clunky. But it does give flying, so that's like the huge benefit. Especially if you can do things like play it and bounce it on the same turn. If you can play around like sorcerer speed removal, and just get it on a guy and attack with flying, like it is going to be a powerful effect. And I do like that it just +1/+1 and flying isn't the worst thing, especially with the 2 devotion, but getting the added benefit of in a long game, every time you top deck one of your bad creatures, you get to put it back and put it back on a heroic guy, or when you draw a new heroic guy, you can get it, bounce it, play it on the new heroic guy, and make him a bigger guy. So,
so I feel like in Sealed it's going to be like an all-star, and Limited in Draft it's going to be really good.
In Draft it's probably going to be better than Limited or in Sealed.
Really?
Well, because you're more focused around your heroic theme.
Well, I mean, you could be more focused in that regard, but you can also just have more of a long game in Sealed that you don't have in Draft. And I feel this card gets better in the long game than it does the short game.
That is true, yeah.
So, you know, ebb and flow, regardless, we're certainly on the same page of you play this card because it's sweet. You know, it's going to do good things for you and your deck. There we go. Temple of Enlightenment. I have been enlightened. This card was the infinite standard play.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we've seen all these blue-white control decks like playing all these off-color temples, and now they just get their on-color temple. And now the mana is just going to be so much better, and you're not going to have your non-splash splash lands because temples, we have found out, they're the best. And oh man,
They're really, really good.
So in Columbus, Todd and I were just talking. We're like, what do you think is the most skill-intensive standard card? You know, and I asked him that, and he's just like, that's interesting. He's like, I don't know. And he's like, maybe my opponent's Jace. And I'm like, no, yours. You know?
That's a non-answer.
Yeah.
What's the most skill testing? That guy's thing.
Yeah, his Jace. And he's like, I don't know, maybe the temples are probably the most skill-intensive thing about standard. And it's true. It's like, this is deck manipulation. These are important decisions. Like, I see people make mistakes all the time by just, it's a tap line, so I play it on turn 1. Well, you don't even know what you're playing against.
Exactly.
Like, and so I think not only is the Scryer, when you play him, really skill intensive, but now it's on the best combination. Like, you get the blue-white one. This is the most important one out of the entire set. And that's scary, actually. Like, I wish they brought the Izzet one this set, and they left this for the last one, because I don't really want blue-white control to get all the goodies right away.
To get even better.
Yeah.
You know, and even if it is driven largely by return to random block.
Yeah.
No doubt this card is just an all-star. I mean, it will be seen play in all sorts of decks, just like the other temples. You know, they started being, everyone just started running like 10 temples in all the decks, regardless of whether they had your colors or not. I was hearing, you know, that blue-white was running dark betrayals in the sideboard because it could run the blue-black temple or whatever. Yeah, you know, and that's a really cool way to sort of use the temples, because you want the scry ability, but you can get sort of this other advantage off of it, this sort of bonus advantage.
Another story.
All right, story time, Brad Nelson.
So I'm playing the blue-white deck with the dark betrayals in the sideboard, and I'm playing against Esper Humans, and my opponent is just like not tapping 4 mana ever, and I'm like, oh, I know what he's doing. He's trying to Notion Thief me. And like, I'm like, with 9 mana, I'm just like, Sphinx for 5, and he's like, Notion Thief. I'm like, Dark Betrayal, draw 5. Yeah. It was sweet.
And then his eyes popped out of his head, and smoke came right out of his ears, and he just picked up his stuff and left. And there you go. All right, so Temple of Malice. We're going to talk about all the temples, as it appears. Temple of Malice is terrific. Again, I think Rakdos' return is going to be a huge force in Standard. I think it's coming back. I think because blue-white is going to have Faded Retribution, it's going to have all these incredible tools. It's going to have its official Scryland. You're going to need a red-black, you know, red-green-black, maybe the Jund with the
Jund just needed their second one. Like, the problem with Jund, and the reason why Jund didn't exist, is because they only had Temple of Abandon, and all the other decks could get to 2 temples. Well, now they can, and I think that's really important for a Jund style deck, because the deck manipulation is so important, because all these other decks don't flood as bad as Jund decks. And I really think a Sylvan Caryatid, Reaper of the Wilds, Rakdos Return deck can be a thing, especially since the format is going to be less reliant or less focused on Mutavaults. I think they're going to be more focused on Nykthos, because the whole power versus synergy thing, I wrote about this a while back, but like, when a set is small, power means more than synergy. It's just better. So all these powerful cards like Packrat and stuff like that, well, now synergy is going to be better, so then the disruptive decks like Jund can exist, because Jund is a power deck solely based around stopping synergies. But if everyone else is just as powerful, then the deck doesn't really have anything to do.
Super interesting about sort of where Jund is versus everything else. But again, I think this card is just one of those, and when the green-black Scryland finally gets here, you know, I think Jund's just going to be...
We're all just tapping lands for days.
Tapping lands, nothing comes into play untap. You know, the red deck players are going to be super excited at that point, and yada yada. So Temple of Malice this week. Temple of Plenty. Temple of Plenty is our last card for this set review chunk.
This is probably one of the most influential cards in the set, mostly because Selesnya has been borderline one of the better decks in the format. And we've seen it top 8 a lot. Maybe it's just Andrew Strout playing it really well. But I played it for a while, and I thought it was a very good deck. But it was the only deck that was competitive, well, besides Kibler trying to make green-black a thing for the last 12 years.
Kibler's tries so hard.
Yeah, but it was the only competitive deck in the format that was multicolored, that didn't have a temple, that still competed. They were just playing their guild gates, and
they
like, I don't need it.
They were straight up running the guild gates.
I don't need it. They're just like, yeah, it's fine. But now they have temples, and we can already see that temples are so much better than guild gates.
Oh, Lord.
Outside of Maze's End.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, outside of the one crazy, wacky deck that I'm glad isn't even a thing in Standard, because I don't think it should be.
It day 2 to GP.
It day 2 to GP, so there you go. It's a fun little deck, but regardless, you know, green-white worked without temples, and that's basically, there's very few decks in Standard can say that.
Oh yeah,
and so now it has temples, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, that 5th land. I mean, the whole thing about temples that is so important is like, it's not that it just scries and you get to put something at the bottom. You get to know what's on top for next turn. So like, when I'm playing these Selesnya decks and on turn 5, I'm just like temple, or play Gilgate. Now I can go temple. Oh, I have a Selesnya charm for next turn. Now what do I do with this combat? You know,
Right.
it's gonna make green-white so much better. It's a subtle upgrade, but I do think just because of this temple, Selesnya doesn't even need any of the new cards. It's just gonna be a thing with all the old cards.
Nice. And of course you can play lots of Voice of Resurgences because I might have a token Voice of Resurgence.
Well, I'll help you out, buddy.
Plug.
You actually, I will say that your Voice of Resurgence token is just unbelievably awesome. It's really good. I don't know why, but I just wasn't watching the media, and I didn't see your token until it was in my hand. I didn't.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't. And I was looking. I'm like, it's Evan, and I'm like, that is beautiful. It was a good token.
I'm okay with this. My ego is sated. All right, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for joining us for the first of many set review videos for Born of the Gods. We will see you here tomorrow for the blue cards and some multicolor cards mixed in with that. For Evan Irwin,
Brad Nelson.
we're tapping the cards.
So you don't have to. Except if you play temples.
Except that's okay.